Is Cruella another failed attempt by Disney to recreate the magic of their animated films with a live-action adaptation? Or is it actually good?
I'm glad that you're sorry.
I'm Cruella.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So today we're going to be talking about Cruella, which is another live-action Disney adaptation. This gives us the origin story to the infamous villain, Cruella De Vil. And this is going to be a non-spoiler review for you guys. The movie, it just came out this weekend, so I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to see it. But basically, we are introduced to a young girl named Estella early on in the movie. She ends up losing her mother, so she actually ends up becoming friends with these other two orphans, and they become petty thieves in order to get by. But Estella, she also has dreams of becoming like a fashion designer. So one day her work actually gets noticed by the Baroness, and she kind of takes Estella under her wing. But then later on in the film, a certain event happens that pits the two against each other. And really from there, that's where Cruella is really born. So guys, I'm going to be honest with you, kind of really to, start this off, that I really wasn't like looking forward to this movie really that much. And it's honestly, it's not because of like the story, it's not because of, like the character, because it's been a while since I've seen like the animated film and then the live action movies with Glenn Close, but I really enjoyed like both of those, from what I remember. So it's like, it's not because of that. In my case, it's really because for the most part, a lot of the Disney live adaptations really haven't been that good. So it's just like, when you have a track record of, it's like, okay, none of these have really lived up to kind of like, what the animated features were like. It's, why would I be excited, about this? Because, you kind of feel it's like, well, they really haven't kind of proven that they can make a good live adaptation up to this point, so why am I going to get excited? But guys, I can tell you right off the bat, this is by far my favorite live adaptation for Disney in like recent memory for sure. And I don't know if it's because, again, if maybe it's because I was going into this movie with like super, fairly low expectations. Maybe that's why I ended up enjoying it so much. But yeah, guys, I had so much fun with this film. Emma Stone, she absolutely crushed the role of Cruella, I think, in my opinion. She just really brings like so much like charisma to like this character that honestly, throughout the film, I really kind of found myself rooting for this character, which is kind of ironic because, she is, the character of Cruella De Vil is like, is like a true villain. She kills like puppies and makes coats out of them. So it's like she's like straight up evil. But in this movie, they were able to make, I think, this character sympathetic in a way and give her kind of like, a backstory that makes sense. And to me, didn't really, feel cheap. Like there were a couple moments where I wish that maybe they would have went a little bit darker, but in the end, I understand it's like a Disney movie. We'll get more into that like in a little bit later on. But I thought overall that it didn't feel cheap and they did a good job. So it's like, I just think Emma Stone, she actually just relished playing like this role. You could tell that she had so much fun. I also love the interaction between Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, who plays the Baroness in this movie. And she's basically this like ruthless fashion mogul who she has like a really, we find out she has a really dark past. And just like the interactions, the back and forth between these two characters was by far, I think, some of the best moments in the film. And they have quite a bit of that in there. So these characters for sure really carried the film for me. And in a way, you could almost see like a Cruella, De Vil in Emma Thompson, her character as the Baroness. So that was like interesting. You almost got like two different, Cruellas, which was pretty cool. And you could just tell, like I said, with Emma Stone, you could just tell both of these actresses, they just looked like they had so much fun making this film. And just, there is like, a little bit of like cheese like thrown in there, but I think it just really kind of like adds to the film like overall. So I had a blast, especially watching these two actresses just give one hell of a performance from both of them. The way this film was shot, too, I think it just had like a lot of style to it, and that's something that I think a lot of the previous live-action Disney adaptations just really was like kind of missing. This movie, it pretty much like takes place in like, the 70s, like for the most part, and it just had like this, punk like vibe to it that I really connected with and thought that was really cool, especially the moments kind of like later on as we get into the film where Estella Cruella, she's going back and forth with the Baroness and trying to like upstage her and do different things. And there's just some like really cool moments with just like how the scenes were shot, the lighting and things like that. And I have to give a shout out to the costume designer for this film. I can't think of her name right now, but which is a shame because her whole team, they absolutely killed it in this movie. Like some of the costumes and stuff were just like absolutely mind blowing. So yeah, I mean, just the way the film looked overall, you can tell there was a lot of passion, I think, in this project. You know, it didn't feel soulless like some of the other Disney live adaptations, kind of felt like to me. Overall, I thought the acting was, pretty much like great to like, really solid. Obviously Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, I thought they killed it in their roles. But I also really liked the characters of Horace and Jasper. They very easily could have been like kind of like throwaway characters, but I thought both of those, the actors brought a lot to those roles. And, they were definitely kind of like, added like a little bit of like comedic relief. But I thought, and there was, a little bit of like cheese, I kind of mentioned that like earlier, like thrown in there too. But in this type of movie, I don't know, for some reason, it just really worked for me and added a lot of fun to it. So I think just overall, all around, all of the actors and actresses, really, really good performances here in this movie, which, again, like, I wasn't really kind of, like, expecting. I was like, I just had kind of, like, low expectations because of previous Disney films, and they just really kind of blew me away with this here. I can't talk about, Cruella without talking about the soundtrack for this film. And if you guys have seen some other reviews, I'm sure you've seen people mention this as well, but holy shit, like what a killer soundtrack. And there's not like a lot of songs that were made specifically for the movie. It's more so, a lot of like, classic songs from like 60s, like 70s and stuff like that. But man, I can't imagine how much it costs to put some of these songs like in the movie, because there is some, some classic songs that a lot of you guys are going to be like, wow, like this song's in here, this song's in here. So, and that really carried like the movie. They fit in there really well. So banging soundtrack. I already downloaded that and I've been like listening to that almost like nonstop. As far as like the only two, and these are really being kind of like nitpicky, I feel like for me, but the only two, I guess, criticisms that I would say with the movie is that, and I kind of mentioned it like earlier on, like in this review here, that there was at one point kind of like going in, like I believe like around like, third act or whatever, that there was an opportunity that I thought this movie could have went almost a little bit darker, actually probably a lot darker than, what I kind of thought they were maybe going for. And they decided not to do that and play it a little bit safe. So I was like a little bit disappointed there. In the end, I know it's a Disney film, and I know they're trying to reach, as big of an audience as possible. And that's not to say that this movie doesn't have a lot of, like, dark elements to it, because it definitely does. There is some stuff in there that's kind of, implied, or things that are actually done that are fairly dark. Much darker than, the previous, live-action Disney adaptations. But there was just, like, an opportunity I felt there that if they did that, that would have like absolutely blown my mind, and that would have been a lot of fun. So if you guys have seen the film, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's just like a specific like one or two moments where I'm like, ooh, you could have like went in this direction and instead kind of played it safe. So I was a little disappointed in that, but it didn't completely like detract from the movie for me. And then overall, as far as the runtime, I think it's like about 2 hours and 15 minutes, 20 minutes, somewhere around there. They maybe could have like cut back a little bit on the time. It didn't feel like, I have seen some people mention that, it maybe like dragged on for too long. I don't think it was like it terribly like, dragged on, but it could have been, I think, like maybe cut back just like a little bit overall. So, but again, those are just really being me being a little nitpicky as far as like my criticisms of the film go. Overall, I had an absolute blast with this movie, and I wasn't expecting to at all. I was like, yeah, I'm going to see this weekend, not really expecting like much, and yeah, this is gonna be like one of my favorite movies of the year so far. Wasn't expecting to say that. So overall, guys, as far as the score goes, I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys checking out. I actually saw it in theaters. I was like, I'm not paying $30 to watch this on Disney Plus. So I ended up seeing it in theaters, and I think it was a lot of fun to see it, on the big screen. So this weekend has been wild, man. I mean, saw A Quiet Place 2, absolutely blew my mind. Saw Cruella, went in with low expectations. That was a lot of fun. Wasn't expecting that. You don't get that, I feel like, too often, where it's like two movies opening up on the same weekend that you actually really love both of them. So I feel like that doesn't happen too often. So when it does, as a film fan, you're just like, wow, life is good right now. So, and I'm actually going to be watching like A Quiet Place again, and I probably will go watch this again. Definitely recommend you guys checking it out. I'm going to be picking it up on, Blu-ray and stuff when it comes out. But yeah, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. I know some people might be disappointed. They might think that, where I kind of was talking about that they could have went a little bit darker. I can totally understand some people being disappointed with that. That's totally fair. But yeah, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are of the movie, down below. Let me know in the comments, if you haven't seen it, is this something that you are going to be checking out? And let me know what your thoughts are like overall. And guys, tell me a movie that you went into, could be like recent memory or even like a while back, where it's like you went into it with like really low expectations and you left and you were like, wow, that was actually excellent. I want to hear what some of those films are. So let me know down below in the comments. As always, guys, if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. Give this video a thumbs up. I really, really appreciate it, guys. And as always, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.